Do I need to adjust this? Or do you think that's good? We're live.
Oh, okay.
We're live.
So, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here this morning, and welcome to our SEAC parent training session today, October 16th, and we are streaming live. So for those of you who are joining us, we do appreciate you being here this morning. We do have some very good information for you this morning with regard to transition services for our students with disabilities here in Hampton City Schools. And we have Ms. Butler as well as Ms. Harris who will come before you today to give you some information with regard to that. And we also have an opportunity to hear from some of our community partners. So we'll have them have an opportunity to talk with you as well. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Ms. Harris and Ms. Butler. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. You all look like the press.
Address the press this morning.
Thank you all for coming. Thank everyone for coming. And I'm getting ready to do one of my most favorite things, and that's to talk about transition, which I think drives the whole IEP. This is mine. I just want you to think about something before we start. I want you to think about the first job that you may have had. It does not have to have been a paid position, but it was a foundation to work something. Like my first job was putting, I'm not gonna tell you that yet. I want you to just think about it for a couple seconds. If you already had that in your mind, I'd like to kind of hear what those positions might have been. Anybody, can you think of your first job?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I had a paper route when I was 12.
A paper route at 12. So you were entering the field of journalism. At 12.
Indirectly.
Yes, yes. I mean, the whole operation would not have worked had you not been able to distribute. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
My first job was at McDonald's.
Okay. At 16?
Yes.
Okay, so you were in food service. Yes, you were, and you didn't stay there, but you had your exploration there, and you learned some soft skills there. Anybody else? My first job was in the church nursery at the age of 15. Okay. And so you were in Christian education at that time. Yes. Anyone else? Yes.
I worked at Spirit Robot in the juniors clothing department, which wasn't a good idea because I put all this stuff in the back and I got paid, I'd go buy it. But that's where I worked.
So you entered the field of fashion merchandising. And my first job was, my grandfather had problems with his feet. And I was like 3. And I took his shoes off and put the lotion on at 3. So I started working in the healthcare field at 3. And my point is that our students don't come to us at 14 with a blank slate. They have skills that they have been doing since probably 3 or 4 years old, like me. If they are able to hand you a plate and you're standing at the sink, they are already in the field of work. They're already following direction. So I want you to kind of keep that in mind, because a lot of times I will be talking to someone and they'll say, well, he can't do that, or I don't see him working. In my experience, there are very few people that cannot work. And so we have to start thinking that way so that we won't, our attitudes and values and understanding won't block the opportunity for our young people. Okay, good. One of my disabilities, I can't do 2 things at one time. I'd like to just begin. Does anyone have any comments before I start? When you think of transition, do you just think of employment?
No.
Okay, good, because transition cover is a holistic concept where you are looking at employment, education and training, and independent living. And the definition is right before you. Take a moment to read it. And I like the word assure. That's what we are, assurance providers. We are assuring that the students will get the skills and training and exploration and practice so that they can take that from school to adult life. And there is a plan that is required. There's a plan that the government requires that we begin to capture the interest in those 3 areas by the time they're 14. But we can start earlier, we certainly do. Start earlier. We start talking to them and observing what they can do long before that civil right pops in, that we have to make sure that we capture what they say they're interested in. And one of the things that happens is they may say that they're interested in something like being a NBA ball player, and they're 3 feet and they're not going to get any higher, taller, and they're not going to go to college, and they're not going to do some of the things that are required for being considered for the NBA. But we have to, if they say it out of their mouths, we have to capture, we have to document it. So if we find as a team that it appears to us that it's unrealistic, then that student has to prove that it isn't for them. And we have to set goals to help them reach as close to that interest as possible. So they may not be ball players, but they may be working in an arena and supporting the ball player. And that's across the board. I had a student once that came to me and told me he wanted to be a rocket scientist. And so I kept sending him back to do his own research. And finally he told me what he wanted to do. And we helped him kind of fine tune that to something that he may be able to do as close to that rocket scientist as possible. What is the focus of transition services? It is to improve academic, I can't stress that enough, academic and functional skills. A lot of times when you think of transition, you think of the old school vocational preparation, which vocational is an outdated term, it's career. So if we think career, we have to have academics. If that student wants to go to college, academics is a part of their transition plan. And if that student is taking the SOL, but wants to go to college, it's still academic because they have to take a different pathway to college, but it's there for them, whether it's credited or not. Functional, I think we just finished talking to Stacy. Some of those functional skills is what they're lacking, which causes them not to hold on to their jobs and get in all kinds of trouble, because they're missing some of the functionality of developing in the transition area. To promote movement from school to post-secondary activities. On the IEP, there is a section that states what the student will be doing 1 year after they graduate. They're telling us every year what they want to do, even in that last year. And then the state requires us to go back and find out how close did they get to that post-secondary goal. The activities to get to that post-secondary goal is held in the schools. After that, we have to find out how good we did, how well we did, how well they're doing, and whether they are meeting their post-secondary goals. To provide service based on student interests, preference, and needs. There's that interest again. A lot of you were interested in being babysitters, working at McDonald's and all of that, but the interest will change. Obviously, we have our press here. It has changed. But we have to keep asking, keep probing, and keep giving them experiences so that they can just not say it off the top of their head, but have some direct contact with their interests. We don't want to have students keep saying every year that they want to play basketball. It's fine, but at some point, we want them to have a second or third career interest that is based on their exploration. Transition services include post-secondary education. What does anyone know outside of college what post-secondary education would include? I guess. Okay. When we think of college, and we think of 2-year and 4-year and obtaining a degree. But post-secondary education for some students can be continuing education back to literacy, getting in an adult reading program. Because for most positions now, especially at the shipyard and even the labor force, you have to be functioning academically on an 8th grade reading level. So you're going to take these tests and it's going to be written on an 8th grade reading level. And 8th grade reading level is pretty high for most people. So it also can mean that they're going to the community college to take forklifting, which is a 1 or 2 day training at a post-secondary facility. It can mean they have a position, an area of nursing now that is even para to certified nursing assistants. So they assist the CNAs who assist the nurses. And I think a girlfriend of mine just got that. She's highly educated, but she wanted to be able to help her family. So there's lots of things that we don't know about or don't think about. That there is support and training out there, so we can't, again, continue to say, this person probably won't work. Vocational education and training, well, those are all the trainings that are out there. Cosmetology, culinary arts. There's a very nice program at the food bank for persons who wish to be trained under chefs. It is a 6-week program, and it's free. It's free. And they're having trouble with retention, but it is a program to help people enter the workforce through culinary arts. So we can make those referrals right from public school. Integrated employment, including supported employment. For those, some students will always need support. They will always need support, and that's not much different from ourselves. You need support on the job too. Their level of support may require a job coach. It may require that they disclose their disability to their employer at the right time and at the right moment so that it will not hinder their opportunity to get the job. It may require transportation, financial support. It may require Department of Rehab Services to monitor that. So integrated employment, supported employment typically means that you're going to have some kind of support, including reasonable accommodations. Integrated and competitive is like how we work, without that level of support. But we still might have to disclose our disability in order to do the jobs that we do now to our employers. Continuing and adult education, I spoke of that earlier. Adult services are all those services that are going to link up to the public schools. What we do in transition is try to make it so that our young people don't have that lapse in between being in school and being an adult eligibility. So what we do is try to process them into the adult system so that they won't be standing in line with thousands of people trying to enter those services. So with DARS, they come to the schools and they have what's called a pre-employment transition, and they start working with students as early as, 14. Okay. So they don't have to wait until and that makes them a little piece of them is in the system, right? Okay, so that's one way of entering the system before there's a selection process where they're a little more selective about who they make eligible as clients. Community service board, I think that a lot of parents access and become a part of that system, but some parents I know in other systems, other cities, there's a tremendous waiting list. And the best time, that's why I like young parents, parents of young students to be a part of the transition information so that they won't be waiting until they exit at the last IEP meeting to start really looking at what's available. For the community service board, you kind of want, as soon as you know that there's a disability, you want to access that information. Then there's Thomas Nelson and every other college that's getting federal money, that there's an office on that campus to help our students with their accommodational needs while they're in college. And I can't stress that. If a student had a case manager in high school, they're probably going to need some help in college. A lot of them say, oh, no more special ed, no more yellow bus, no more things that associate me with special ed, and I'm just going to go to college, and my disability is going to go away, and I'm just going to have a good time in college. Well, that's usually, if the success rate is pretty bad if we don't access the help you need in college. And I tell students, you might get a pen that records for you, and you're in a group, you're the only one with that pen. So I would want to be in the group if I'm doing a group activity with the person with all the accommodations, so it benefits everybody. Independent living, if necessary, put that if applicable, it's written in the law, but I personally feel like all young people need to have some exposure to developing themselves in the area of independent living. When I think about how I washed clothes in college and everything turned red because I didn't have the experience, or I missed a digit on my social security number, which caused me not to get grades for a while, it had to be corrected. Getting in the wrong car with the right car with the wrong people, causing you to be associated with criminal activity sometimes. It's just so many things that fall under independent living. It is not just learning how to groom yourself. When you're going to college for the first time, you're going to work. You have to be work on time. If there's no case manager to assist you, your telephone, your device now, you have to ramp up to not be using 10% and to be at 30% so you can use your technology to manage your life. That is independent living, in my opinion. And community participation, that's leisure, joining the Y, having a bank account, knowing how to use the ATM, knowing your laws. That's a big thing for students who come back to high school, to date high school students, and there's 18 and 19, because if you're friends with that person, you have to know your laws to keep yourself in the position where you can get jobs.
That also covers voting.
Yes.
To be voters.
Selective service.
Right.
All men, I tell all the boys, you have to let the government know where you are at 18. It will hit you later. You might miss it, but when you start trying to get house loans and all of that, they may refer back to the fact that you did not register for selective service. And also, just to throw that in, I don't have a lot about accommodations, but with the driver's license, you can ask for accommodations when you go to take the test.
And also transportation is covered under community participation, knowing how to access the public transportation system, or calling anybody, what they call it, paratransit services through the bus system. So all that part of community participation.
Some of our students are accessing paratransit now. Transition is student-centered. I don't know how many times I've been in meetings or prepared for meetings where the whole transition interest thing is filled out by somebody other than the student. And so when parents, this is a hard thing for parents sometimes, parents will tell, well, he's good at computers. And then I say, good at what? At computers, because some parents are not as savvy. It appears that they're good at computers, but for the most part, they're doing what the whole world is doing. They're doing YouTube or shopping or listening to music. How they are implementing their skills is another thing. So if they have strength, we as educators have to really assess what that strength is, along with the parental help. And strength, sometimes we don't see. Sometimes we don't see it, but you see it at home. Because at home, at school is sort of like a laboratory. At home is real life. And so if you have chores that your children are doing, and we don't know about it, we're like, oh, he did that, or he picks out his own clothes. Just things that we don't know, that we have to get from you. Their interests, we always hear that they're doing something in church, or they're in the recreation team at home, in their community. They are cutting the grass or helping their fathers wash the car. And we don't see that. We ask them all about it, but you're the one that has to give us that information to help build a better transition plan, not based on the little window of information we see. The preferences, I always ask the students to kind of imagine what kind of house they would like to live in. And they give me some grand houses, like 3 basketball courts on the property. They want to drive a Lamborghini, all the things that, we have given up on. They're in that dream state and they should be able to express it. But then I have to say, well, how much do you think all of that is going to cost? And that brings a math in, other dialogue, so that they can begin to start thinking. And we expect one thing from an 8th grader, but by the time they're 12th graders, they need to have fine-tuned that. Hopefully they had their part-time job, or they've done something to help them understand that the stuff that comes from parents costs money. So they'll say, well, maybe I need to have a roommate. Or maybe I need to live with my parents for a while. We want to help them realize that. And then their experiences. I just stress to parents to give them as many experiences as you possibly can that helps them with their transition. Just listen out for everything, so that they can be well-rounded and be good. And when it's time to talk to DARs, they can actually have a conversation about their experience. Okay, so we are educators, so we can't need classroom instruction. We embed transition information into the academics. I spoke of academics earlier. So if they're doing math, is that not a transition skill? They're going to need that for cooking, driving, banking, budgeting. So we're going to teach them how to apply those academic skills to functional living. We always should, as a teacher, that's what I try to do, make sure that I connect it to something that is beyond the classroom. And so when we have them doing fundraisers, that's a little bit of job. If they're out there trying to get you to buy those peanuts or whatever, that's a job. And they're going to be applying their speech, their communication, their eye contact, their verbal presence, all of that. The related services are a part of transition. The speech and language, how you communicate. So a lot of times I will ask the speech therapist, this is what I'm working on. I'm working on his greeting. I'm working on how if the employer says, can you sweep up those bins that burst on aisle 5? And they said, that's not my job, you know. That's communication, how to transfer, how to be a team player, community experiences, the college fairs, the college trips, there's an interactive museums. There's a couple of the colleges that I know Virginia State, that's my college, they have a bus that comes into the neighborhoods to introduce students about getting careers in agriculture. And they'll bring the bus right to your school. And so it's computer friendly, and that's experience. It might be a Saturday, you take them to the bus, they do all that interactive stuff with the field of agriculture, which is very broad, it even has engineering in it. And you just, listen out for that. Pre-employment and employment skills, we talked about what they're doing now, they're not a blank slate, and daily living, how to get to places on time. That's a big thing. The IEP and transition services, the IEP includes the transition plan. It is not a separate document. When I look at a transition plan, I want to see an IEP, I want to see transition all through that plan. From his plot, from his present level of performance, what is he doing now, which should include some transition information, all the way down, all the way through the annual goal, through the post-secondary, even in the annual goals, I want to see it. I want to see conversations, when they're going to graduate, whether their documents, their confidential documents have been released to outside agencies. All of that should be in place, and that should not be just in a little section that you cover for a few minutes. And it should be updated annually. As soon as students walk out the door from an IEP meeting, they typically have a new career in. They tell you what they think we all want to hear, but most of them want to be rappers, things like that, and then you just turn that around and say, oh, you're a poet, but they change because they're developing and experiencing and exploring. Now, they might say, well, no, I saw this, or I went to the shoe store and I think I want to do that, or I went to the shipyard and I think I want to do that. So don't get mad at them when they change and we got to do an addendum or something. Just know that he has changed his mind, or she has changed his mind and wants to do something else, and that is a good thing. If we could have changed our mind earlier, we may be sitting somewhere else. If we had some of the exploration that's out there for students now. Promotes activities and services to assist students in reaching post-secondary goals. Your school has so many activities in it. The extracurricular activities, I find that a lot of our students do not participate in extracurricular activities, but service for students doesn't end at the last bell. So if they want to be in the theater group, if they want to run track, all of it helps them to socialize and become team players, which is good for the workplace. So, and it helps to raise the awareness of the entire community. So that's what we want to do. We are included, and we want to stay there, and the only way we can do that is to keep pushing our students and pushing our advocacy to make sure that they are experiencing as much as they can while they're in school.
So if you had a post-secondary goal for a student, let's say the student wants to go to college, you mentioned that. The post-secondary goal would say, Johnny will graduate from a 4-year college program of his choice, possibly. That's the results-oriented that was mentioned one of the early ones. We don't want him just to apply to college, because you can apply to college and not get in. We want him to graduate. So then we come up with activities and services that would help that student to hopefully reach that goal eventually. Won't be till maybe 4 years after graduation or 5 years. But those activities might include, first of all, getting that standard diploma, might be applying for colleges, being able to write the essay that you have to write on a lot of college applications, visiting schools, going to I know every year Hampton has a college fair, attending the college fair, they usually the school bus event. So those would be some of the activities and services that the student will participate in to help them to eventually reach that post-secondary goal. Does that help make it a little clearer?
And let me even add more to that clarity, that when you go to college and you think that you are going to walk in that room and talk for your student, it's not going to happen. Your student, your child, even when they go to adult services, one of the assessments is, can the student speak for themselves? So a lot of times, I've been shut down when I tried to work with, go and speak for a student as an advocate from the school system, and they'll, just redirect me or ask me to leave the room. It's hard. It's hard for us. That you can sign paperwork to get their information, but they're the ones that are going to be navigating around that school. Okay. Post-secondary goals should address employment. So like Debbie was telling me, a lot of this is redundant. You'll see the redundancy in the IEP, but we want to make sure it's there. So employment, education and training, independent living, and community participation. Got the little pictures there of the graduate and then the exit and all the things that they can do once they exit the school system. I want to talk a little bit, because I've talked about those most of that, but I want to talk about assessment. Okay, so when we write a transition plan based on interest and ability, the law says we can do so by having a conversation. That's an informal assessment, but we want to go deeper and use other assessments that probe the interest more. And the ability, because again, we can want to do all these things, but if it is required that you read on a 12th grade level, and you still want to do it, that's where the reality sets in. A lot of girls tell me they want to be nurses. A lot of girls tell me they want to be nurses. And my assessment is to mention blood. As soon as I do that, a lot of them just, I'm like, well, find something else. Because if you can't deal with blood, or these are the type of allied health positions that look like nursing, that support the nursing system, and you don't even have to be a nurse, and it's quicker to get in that way,
We also have a transition assessment available to teachers to use with students who have more significant cognitive disabilities. That it's more of a nonverbal. It involves a lot more pictures of different types of jobs, of different types of activities, where the students give some pictures, and then we ask the student to select one that they would prefer to do. So we have some along those lines too. So it's not always about students who can read to a certain level. We do have some for students who have more challenges.
The names of those, so I can maybe.
There's one called Read Free. Okay. Interest inventory.
That's the thing, there's an interest inventory, they're online. You just Google it, you can find them. Google it, do they have it to the website, or where am I Googling? You can just Google it. If you just Google transition inventory, so transition inventory for students with disabilities. Vocational inventory.
or you can come by and see me and I can show them to you.
Thank you. And I have other students in mind that yeah, they're not here, so.
And you think about non-readers, but students take so many tests. Sometimes just the paper is distracting, or they don't want to do that. You can start with a higher level student with a circle just as a warm up, just to get them to start being open to talking about their interests. And then we do refer students to Woodrow Wilson Rehabilitation Center for a PERT assessment, which is a very deep, and it is a formal assessment. And what they're doing is the student stays at the facility for almost 2 weeks. 10 days, including the weekends, and they are being assessed on everything they do. Getting to where they have to be on time, how they socialize in the break room, how they're getting along with others. They pick 3 career interests and they get to practice and show so that they it can be determined whether that is a skill or the skills that they may need is something that they have. And then after they're finished, we get a very, very thorough report back at the school system as a parent gets it. And a recommendation of what this student can do after they graduate. So they've been assessed deeply. Now on the state, it said you can come back. We see that you're you would do very good at being a locksmith or a heavy equipment operator or cosmetologist or culinary, and then they're gonna bring you back after you graduate or exit the school system and help to train you in that area. And then they'll go back to DARS and hopefully DARS will be able to help them gain employment in that particular interest area.
Excuse me. When they're graduating high school, is it either a standard diploma or a Applied Science diploma? Is there a requirement for that PERT program?
No.
No, but you will miss 2 weeks of school. So you have to take that into consideration when you go. But diploma option, I mean, that could be a whole nother thing in itself, a whole nother program in itself. But that is something that is decided every year. So that can change. A lot of our students start out with standard diplomas and then may change eventually, or it may stay, or may become an advanced diploma. But yeah, that if you go to PERT, that is 2 weeks away from school. So if they are on an SOL standard diploma track, we have to see about what we do to assist in that. So most of the students that we have sent are more online studies, to be honest.
Just wanted to know the requirements before.
Yeah, I don't know if there's really a per se requirement, but it's just what's best practice in students missing school.
It's an excused absence, but it's still 10 days of instructional time that the student that is on, depending on their graduation track. Thank you.
And some students wait until they graduate to approach DARS about Woodrow Wilson. So just because it doesn't happen in high school, it doesn't mean it can't happen directly after high school. Especially if parents go in and say, I'm interested in, well, the student goes in and says, I'm interested in Woodrow Wilson.
Is it open to all students or students with significant disabilities?
Students with disabilities.
Any student?
Well, there is some criteria around IQ, I think. Is that correct?
60, anybody below 60 has to be reviewed by a team. If they have some other type of adaptive skills that kind of brings them up, because the tests sometimes are not as good, but they probably can be. And so students have a chance to, it's a feasibility assessment, they'll do it. If the student has some concerns, they'll go up over their feasibility assessment to see if it was a safe place, a good fit for them to come back and be further evaluated.
You also have to be able to live a little independently away from home, not get homesick and that sort of thing too, because you have to be there for 2 weeks.
There have been parents that come behind the bus and those take their babies away for almost 2 weeks. They do check in with you often through the day, let you know how your child is doing.
They're well supervised.
Yeah. The IEP transition team, we know that the student is at the top of the team. And by the time that they are in transition age and really about to exit, the goal is to have them talk to us about what they want to do. And the parent kind of weighing themselves away from that, so that, because that's what they're gonna have to do once they are an adult out in the community. The parent special ed teacher, general ed teacher, and adult agencies if applicable. So if your child is a client of DARS, you may, or we may, or the child may, the 18 may say, I want my DARS person to be at my meeting. You know, and so that way they can tell us where they are, the agency can tell us where they are in the process of transition. And when you reach the age of majority, the IEP must include a statement that the student and parents have been informed that all rights under IDEA that will transfer to the adult student at age 18. So, you know, actually the child at that point invites the parent. We always try to keep them involved, but it is the student at that point that allows the parent to a tough concept maybe to embrace, but we try to teach them that this is your meeting and these are the people that are required to come, but you can invite your parent. And some students run away with that a little bit, you know. They'll say, I don't want my parent to come. But we try to encourage them because they're so new into the adult world that they don't know everything. They may think they do.
I have a question. So let's just say your student may have severely limited cognitive abilities. If the parent has not gone through the legal process to get guardianship, does it still transfer?
Yeah, it's still, the child is still inviting the parent.
But I'm just saying, they may not be.
And we'll just help them invite you. How's that sound?
So typically the protocol is, and then we'll talk about the practice that we'll have in place here in Kansas City schools. But the protocol is typically that well before the time turns 18, so at least a year before that time, we inform parents that at the age of majority, then students have to invite their parent to the meeting. Some students, if they have a significant cognitive disability, may not even understand what that means, but that gives you as a parent the opportunity and the time that you'll need to go to court services to make sure that you become the legal custodial parent, because you'll have to just provide some documentation that supports that your child has a cognitive disability that will require that you maintain the custodial parent.
That's not something that you would share with the parents right off to say, look, you know, we're looking at your Zoom. Okay.
That's what I said, it starts the year before, so that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So typically parents will even start that before that time. We've had parents that are at the age of 14, because sometimes the court services, they're not sanctioned the same way that public schools are sanctioned. And even with regard to our community partners, they are not sanctioned in the manner in which a public school agency is sanctioned. So parents will have to take an active role in involvement into making sure that you have dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, and you are the custodial parent for your child, even once they become 18 or older, because at that time, they have the right. Doctors won't even have conversation with you if you don't have certain documentation that says that you are still the custodial parent of your child. So that's a very good question. That's a very good comment for you to make, because yes, and that is what IEP committees, especially as we start to talk about transition, want to make sure that we get the word at the high school level in particular, but as early as 14, just like the gentleman was saying with regard to those services, as early as 14, we want to start having conversation with parents and students about what the options are.
And there, if you go on the Virginia Department of Education website and put in the search in the age of majority, there's actually a whole booklet in there. I mean, we can get that to you if you'd like. If you don't have access, but there's a whole booklet in there of resources and things you can do as a parent.
And that could be, I'm going to be having tips for parents on Tuesdays, once a month, and that may be one of the topics.
Okay.
Talk about approaching the age of majority.
Most of these we've talked about. These are all the responsibility of the school to make sure things happen.
We refer, you get that referral from DARS, and then we have made the referral. You know, and then it's up to the parent to follow up, or the 18-year-old and above student to follow up with them.
So if I can piggyback on those times of the essence, but I was a high school teacher for almost 20 years, so this was for me like an area of concern, because In the school system, we're going to make sure that the students are getting the services that they need. Community agencies and outside agencies and adult agencies follow up with parents based on an as-needed basis and based on what the availability is. So there are vouchers and waivers, and they'll be able to talk with you more about that. But as a parent that's advocating for your child and wanting to help your child be able to move further and enhance their quality of life, it's going to be advantageous for you to take that role to make sure that you are an active participant, especially when we're talking about, like Mr. Dave referenced, if there's a student that may have some cognitive deficiencies that won't allow them to access it on their own. You're going to need to help be that voice for your child. And so when we say as a school division, yes, we will and we do make sure that to the degree possible, we connect you with those community and outside partnerships, but it falls on the parent. It becomes a parent responsibility to follow through. And I used to have to tell my parents, even something with regard to CSB and needing wraparound services. As a school principal, I would have to tell some of my parents, I need you to call them and you need to say, my child has been suspended 17 times because of this, and this. I have the documentation that supports it. You keep pushing me off. They're doing this in the school. I need some extra support outside of school. What can you do? And sometimes as a parent, you don't want to make it seem that intense, but if that's your reality, that's your reality. And that's what we live in the public school setting. We live in the reality and they do too, but they're only going to hear the people that have the needs, the greatest needs. It's the time to talk about the disability, absolutely.
The parent is so valuable in this process. I can't stress that enough. Right there beside the student. You're sharing your concerns. So it's a part of the IEP, one of those line items. You're sharing your concerns and progress. Sometimes, again, we don't see the progress. We need you to tell us about the progress. Their abilities and interests and strengths. You assist with the transition exploration. Get them out there, get them exposed to different things. Promote student advocacy and self-determination skills. I think you put that in. Yeah, because you want the child to be able to advocate. They got a dream, they need to follow it, they need to do what they need to do to reach that dream. Okay, they need to be a part of this process and not shaking their heads because looking to see if mom or dad is shaking their head. They should be able to shake their head no at some point because it's their life. Okay. Follow up with school and collaborating agencies, what the judge has just communicated to you, and complete and sign transition documents. You can't sometimes move on if we're not, in agreement. And we'll work until we get the agreement. Next slide. That's it?
No, that's the next slide.
Oh, okay. The adult agency role. Well, they're here now. So they're showing some of their responsibilities as team players. They come when we ask them to present. They attend a meeting. When we refer a student, they follow up with us. They come into the schools to do pre-employment transition, which is to prepare the student, give them some skills and some classroom instruction on this thing that they're approaching called the world after high school. There's some other information that they get from parents that we're not privy to, more about income, things like that. The student role is to be able to participate in their transition meeting. And for students who show up at meetings, you can tell the difference, or the ones who actually have been prepped. And we prep them in the classroom, or the teacher, or the counselor, or whomever, but the prepping also has to be a part of your conversation with them. You're having your IEP meeting, you know what an IEP is? No. This is when you get to talk about the classes you want to take and what you want to do and where you want to go to school and what you might want to learn. That's their place in that meeting. And the government says that it gives them dignity, gives them that one time out of all of our educational interventions this is the one time that they get to speak, and we need to listen. Transition services assist youth with developing skills. We've already said that. Planning for their own life after high school. Creating transition opportunities, which are in the schools. We want students to be able to work in the schools. They have cafes, they have the cafeteria, they have the library. This is before they, so they can show readiness to go out in the community. We can't just put children out there and think that they're going to be ready. They have to show themselves ready so that the employer is not overwhelmed by them, nor the individual. So they've had practice. Thank you, Debbie. I put guidance and counseling up there because our students, we tend to always rely on the special ed lady or man for all of our information, and we have resources in the school, so the students need to go to those resources and not depend so heavily on their special ed man or lady. We refer them, but the guidance and counseling personnel, they're there for all students. Everything in the school is there for all students. So we want to make sure they access it and they're not limiting themselves to the special ed lady or man. CTE academies, and I know you all have heard about the academies that are in Hampton City schools now, which gives students the opportunities to get that exploration in the classroom, specific exploration on a specific career track.
And what we learned recently, I think at one of the meetings that we were in, was that in the Success 101 class, which is sort of a requirement when you're going into the academies, it exposes students to all the different types of careers and opportunities out there. They actually develop a 10-year plan, the student does, which fits right into our transition. So when your child is enrolled in that Success 101, we need to access that plan so that we're not working at odds that, you know, the transition plan is matching what they're doing in Success 101.
So when can you enroll in that Success 101?
As a freshman.
As a freshman in high school, okay.
School-based enterprises, like I said, we have opportunities in the schools for students to practice. School stores, I try to make the school store once a month or once every 2 weeks. Just go around and go to the stores and buy cookies or whatever it is they're selling, crackers. And just watching their interaction with me and how they run these enterprises is, it makes me feel good because they're gaining soft skills. That's the big thing. Job coach training, we have a job coach program where the students are going out and working in the community. They're working and they're getting training. They're raising the awareness of the community because the community sees them out there in enclaves out there working. So we have Walgreens has been very good to us. Burlington, they can't wait till we come. We have Big Lots. We have some small business operators, some restaurants. The shrimp boat. I hate saying it. Yeah, and we have a Jamaican restaurant team that's called Jerk Sauce on one end and Jamaica on the other. They have been hiring students from Kickingham for a couple of years. So they get to, and I like the ones who are just excited about having us. Everybody is not. And so we have to kind of educate them on the investment that they'll be making when they allow one of our students to come and job shadow and work and do some of the tasks. One of the things that happens, a lot of adults will say, well, they're doing the same old thing. They're doing the same thing, rotating stock. But if you are not skilled and you're hired, that's exactly what you're going to be doing. So it's entry level experience. This should motivate somebody to get the degree or the diploma, so and get the job experience so that they can, and we teach them how to ask for more. I'm finished my that. Is there something else that I can do? And that always is impressive to the employer. The PACE Lab, which is at Phoebus, is a laboratory set up with the different work functions. So you're doing everything from clerical, computer, hospitality, IT, as it falls under, and administrative tasks. And so you're doing that all year. You're showing you have to clock in, clock out, and you have to perform at a certain rate, and you have to do it correctly, or you continue to do it until you can move on to a new task. And food can be fun. I like this one was 2 middle schools and a high school last year got to spend 6 weeks at the food bank learning how to cook. But not just learning how to cook, they learned safety, hygiene, customer service, and the objective was that they would cook a breakfast, lunch, and dinner within that 6-week frame. And the food is good. agency collaborations, we have them, we've talked about all of them so far. Fort Eustis and Soteric Careplex are where our students do a 1-year training at these locations, and they work, do a rotation of 3 different areas while they're there. And I just want to say that our students, 2 of them have federal jobs now as a result of that. And it's hard to get a federal job. So, yeah. All right.
That's a spotlight
I
item.
think I'm finished with that. Our organization partners are Versability, Hampton, just to name a few. Hampton City Food Bank, Thomas Nelson Workforce Development Choice Program, which sort of supports our project search. And there are more. We'll talk about that on Tuesdays. And is that? Yes.
So we'll now open it up for questioning, and also Dar and Versability here, and so they can talk to you a little bit about what they do and the services that they provide to individuals with disabilities.
What's going?
You mentioned Tuesdays. What is going on Tuesdays?
I'm going to have a forum where parents can come and we just talk about the different components of transition. I'm going to do that in my Patreon.
And we'll send out information about that.
Yeah, please.
We'll share it with SEAC so that you can disseminate the information and put it on the website. But the goal is that we're getting more information out to parents of our students with disabilities here in Hampton City Schools. And so the parents has partnered with some other school divisions that have taken on this charge, and we want to just make sure that we're working collaboratively together, because a lot of times our parents and our families go from division to division, and even when the kids get older and transition, they may live in York, but their parents are right here in Hampton City Schools. So just want to make sure we get some things out to parents, and so we're going to start a forum of this or a venue of this nature this school year. That was Mrs. Pierce's great idea.
And I'm located at Patriot. My office is there, so stop by and look at the assessments.
The Patriot Center.
Oh, Tara.
Oh, I was thinking York County. I was like, please.
It was
Turan Elementary School, and it was Turan.
So I thank you for your time and have the opportunity to.
Okay, want to give you a quick, just a real quick overview and lead you stuff here. Real quick overview of what we're doing that's new. DARS has taken an approach. We used to have an approach of transition that most of the time it was a transition referral to us. And from that referral, then we were able to just start working on transition services. In 2014, Barack Obama signed the Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act, which basically made us start working with students, put 15% of DAR's budget for working with students at a younger age. So that was $9.5 billion in the state of Virginia, 15% of our budget. So we work with students in schools, and this is the pre-employment transition services to give students the benefit of engaging us earlier. We work on 5 areas. And there's a few things that I just want to talk about that kind of wrap up some of the things. We work on 5 areas. 5 areas are in job exploration counseling, exploring career interests, and when we talk about job exploration, we talk about the opportunity to do it I know we talked about a lot of assessments that we have, but one of the best assessments would be what we call a situational assessment. The situational assessment is giving the student an opportunity to go out and actually try the job. So we, in the summertime, we do work-based learning experiences for students and give them an opportunity to actually try the job. Students are dependent upon a lot of things that are going on in their life, education, communication, even the person giving the test can struggle on vocational tests. Maybe a good day for them or a bad day for them, but any type of test. So we do a situational assessment, give them a chance to get prepared, talk about what they want to do, give them a chance to actually try the job. Work-based learning experiences, we talked a little bit about that. That's number 2. In the summertime, we're definitely doing work-based learning experience to give students a chance to go out and try jobs. Some students got jobs and kept them this year because they actually have job coaches. One of the things about this law, the law was with job coaches and supported employment, that you can only do that when you're actually going out to get a job, and it was going to be their final job. Under the new Innovation Act, you can use job coaches to assist students in getting work-based learning experiences. Job coaches can also help them with bus training and get prepared for jobs. So that's something that you're going to see different. We're going to be coming into the schools to try to help with this. Continuing counsel on education and training opportunities. That's where we educate parents about Woodrow Wilson, PERT, different programs that they have opportunities to be involved in. We spend time with them talking about it, and one of the things that we talk about, and we talk about disclosure, and that's falls in the advocacy too, but we talk with them about disclosure. There's partial disclosure of disability, and there's full disclosure of disability. Full disclosure is when you tell basically everything that's happening. But oftentimes, people have disabilities that are managed by medication or managed by something, and there may be no need to if you have some severe mental health disability and you are stable on medication for 6 years, there's no need to go in and tell a school or employer anything about that disability because you're stable on medication. If you have issues with it, of course, sometimes you do it. When we talk about the way that you disclose it. We also help students to set themselves up with the disability services at the colleges. We also talk about the limitations of the disability service in college. So understanding that in secondary education, there is going to be a component of independence. No matter where you go, there's going to be a component of independence. Even if you go to Woodrow Wilson, there's going to be a component of independence that you have to meet. Woodrow Wilson can work with you on that, but those are things that you can do at home, and we'll talk about living documents. Workplace readiness training, that's the soft skills that we talk about. That is a lot of what I do in the classroom. I've been in every Hampton, all the 4 Hampton high schools this year already, and we are doing work-based work readiness training, soft skills development, teaching them how to interact with people, teaching them how to do those things, and then introduction on self-advocacy. We talked a little bit about that. One of the things that getting kids prepared also is when they have disability and when they get SSI disability, how it will affect their incomes. If they get jobs, and how it affects them, making parents comfortable with understanding that it's beneficial to work and there are incentives out there for them to work versus staying home. Also helping the kids to understand what their rights are, how to ask for reasonable accommodations, because the only thing that they are really given through the law is reasonable accommodations once they become adults. It's not fair and appropriate, it's reasonable accommodations. You can't cost employers things, and then we help with those types of things from there. But we work from 2 different things. Number 1, we work on experience, soft skills, attitudes, and behaviors. Experience, helping kids to get some type of experience that will help you get employed once they graduate. And that's not on there. That's what we work on. Soft skills, most of our students lose their jobs because of soft skills. We have researched that over and over again. We can teach these students how to do things, teach them what to do, but soft skills, it's not that we can't teach them the job, it's that we can teach them to keep the job. They get confused when the manager and the alternative manager, who all of y'all have probably worked with, alternative manager, which is that employee who tells everybody what to do outside of the boss being there, that person tends to get our kids in trouble. And the last thing is attitudes and behaviors. We cannot control attitudes and behaviors. Some of the when kids get let down, we teach them some resiliency and work with them on that. We talk to them about people who in their lives who have been put down in life, and how they struggle, how they come back. People be saying they can't do things, how they come back from it. So we put them in things. Last thing I want to say is one way to work with students very simply to help them to get prepared, help them understand for the parents, is to use a living document. A living document like a resume.
Right.
If you just take a resume and turn it around with the student and say, let's start, okay, objective. The objective might be the X, Y, and Z job. Then you come down and you say, okay, education. And you got to get them to understand education. The objective has to have education and experience. And you give them an opportunity to rectify those things. And say, so at 14 years old, if I know a person wants to do something, I have a better chance of getting them to achieve that objective than if they come in at 17 or 18 in a senior year in high school and they tell me this is what I want to be and I have to work with them. So everybody needs to get some experience. The experience has to be a part of what parents, what people do. Some type of experience, volunteer, it's important. And then you go down and you talk about it, and you even talk about what do we put in resumes as adults? What do we put in resumes? We put our extracurricular activities. So when kids don't want to participate, you say, well, on my resume, I have extracurricular activities. And everybody else's resume, they have extracurricular, why don't you? So that helps them to understand that they need to meet those categories in order for us to be able to work with them. Because when they come to us as DARs, a lot of what happens is when they come to us, they have none of those things. They don't have any of those categories. And then we're trying to work to try to give them that experience. And it takes time. And then we're in a race against whether or not they're going to be successful before they either give up, disappear, or get frustrated. So the more stuff that they have when they come to DARS, the better off it is. Any questions?
At what age do you typically start working?
We start 14 years old.
14.
The law is complicated. In one part of the law, it says 14 years old, which people are interpreting middle school. Another part of the law, it says high school. So we're trying to get a legal interpretation of that for our agency to work with the school system. One, like I said, one part says 14, and then one part says high school, 14 high school. So once we get an interpretation, we'll get that back to you.
Thank you.
She gave a lot of information. I don't know how I'm going to follow up. But good afternoon. I am Kimber Wormley. I am the Assistant Director of Programs for Versability Resources. We're located in Hampton, and actually we're celebrating our 65th year of being involved in our community. So I like to say, Versability, we provide a lot of different types of services, but one thing here at the high school level or for transition services, we do a transition program in which we are partnered with the city of Hampton along with other school systems in the area. And we have the students that come and they, part of their day, instead of being in the classroom, we are at their classroom. So they're doing a variety of jobs that we have in-house at our program, at our center in Hampton. So they're learning some of those soft skills. We're teaching them how to be a part of teamwork. We're teaching them how to complete a job task correctly, fulfilling the requirement that we have with our employers or the business partners that we're linked to. Another part that we do within Versability is that we do the employment side of services. So we do have supportive employment in which we are linked with DARS. So we are giving referrals from DARS, and our supportive employment department help people to find jobs who have disabilities. So they're there from the beginning, finding their interests, going through the process. Let's do a resume, let's find a job, let's look for employment. Now you have a job, provide on-the-job training along those things, and you follow along services as well. Another entity of Versability is our government contracts. And with our government contracts, we employ people with disabilities. We are engaged in something called Ability One. And with Ability One, we have to have 75% of our workforce. They have to have a documented disability. And that documented disability can be something that's physical, it can be cognitive, it can be mental health, it can be whatever. It just has to be a documented disability and shows how we are going to provide accommodations for that person to employ them. With our government contracts, we are able to employ people in doing a variety of jobs that can include custodial, it can include food service. It also includes our ship provisioning contract in Norfolk and also in Hawaii and Guam, in which we have people that are out there on the docks that are loading the ships and submarines for our men and women before they go out to port. And with a job like that, people are getting paid $19 plus an hour. So these are very good paying jobs. They're also given fringe benefits along with that employment. We also have employment that includes preparing lens, glasses. We call it the lens lab. Preparing glasses for our men and women in the military, and that's over at Yorktown Naval Weapons Station. And we also do the grounds there. We're also at Langley Air Force Base, in which we do what we call our switchboard, where we're taking phone calls from all over the world, and we're transferring those calls to conferences or to commanders or wherever that call needs to go to. And then we also have mail services that we do there. So our job employment opportunities that we have are not the typical of just, just cleaning, custodial. It includes more than that. It has food service, but it also has other opportunities as well, whether it's answering the phones, being a phone operator, doing mail services as well. Another entity that we have that I am trying to be that bridge between families and schools and with our community is to be that resource for everyone, to let them know what their options are and try to direct people into the right direction, whether it's to go to DARS or whether it's to go to Hampton New CSP. We do have day support programs, and we do have residential services as well in the Hampton Roads area that we try to help people and point them into the right direction to get the services that they need. I like to say, after the bus stops, what happens to your life? So let's have that conversation, let's figure it out, and let's try to come up with a plan to figure out what's gonna happen when that school bus stops coming to your house, because it's gonna stop coming one day. So what's gonna be the next step? And we have to sit around and prepare for those things of life that's gonna take place and happen. So that's just versatility in a little nutshell. So any questions that you have for me, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I'm here to be your resource. Thank you.
There are some materials over here that include versatility information, information about project search and the PERT assessment, contact information for the adult agencies. And this is I like this tool, you may have seen it before. It kind of tells you everything you need to do from 10 to 22. So please pick that up and look at it. This comes from the Department of Education. Is there anything else?
I just wanted to say thank you very much, Mrs. Harris, Mrs. Butler, as well as our community representatives. A few takeaways for me as a parent, first and foremost, but also as an educator, are to make sure that we're building on our child's strengths. I heard that numerous times. Yes, ma'am. So that we're building on our child's strengths, and we've heard that numerous times. Also, to make sure that you're accessing resources that are accessible and available to your students and to your kids. Make sure that student-centered is a focus. I know a lot of times as parents, we want what we want for our kids, and I know I have to step back from time to time and listen to what my child is telling me that he or she wants, and I have to not be that parent saying, but no. Last night on the baseball field, it was like, but no, and so, yeah. So don't be that parent. I try not to. I do appreciate the inclusive practices that we currently have in place here in Hampton City Schools, and that we are continuing to build with our partnerships with the outside agencies. And also just wanting to make sure that everyone understands and acknowledges when we say the word academic is just that, it's academic, but it's on a very individualized level for all individuals and students with disabilities, all people with disabilities. So the academic functionality that may be conducive for me may not be conducive for Ms. Butler. So let's just remain realistic. I heard both of our community representatives being supportive and communicating that to we as parents, first and foremost, and also we as educators, because from time to time we will push the envelope and listen to the kids when they continue to talk about basketball and say that that's their level of interest. But being able to shape that so that we make it more realistic for them and they know what the course needs to be or how to help them chart that course is something that's very critical. So I thank SEAC for giving us the opportunity. I thank my team for being a resource, and all of my coordinators for being here and being accessible and hearing this information so that they can share it with the parents of the schools. And also to Ms. Bethea and the SEAC team for live streaming this so that they have information out there for all parents who are not able to make it here physically. So thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you all next month.